How old is she?
Sweet 16.
Uh-oh. You buy her new car?
Nope. Kevin, are you going to talk about the policies,
Hmm?
or do you want me to? I mean, or
We have an
Rick can.
overview of the policies. There we go. We are live. In that case, welcome to the regular board meeting of the Tecumseh Board of Education for August 24th, 2020. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. John Benzing.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item on the agenda are good news. Looks like I'm up for good news, and the good news this evening, I guess, is that we are, as a board and a superintendent, are thanking the employees, all the employees of TPS. This has not been an easy transition to the new COVID reality, and we're getting good support from the employees. And this is a moment that I personally and the board as a whole would like to say thank you. Our first public comment, we did not have any registrants for, which will bring us to revisions and approval of the agenda. Are there revisions to the agenda? Can I get an approval to the agenda then, please?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Support.
Roll call. Tim?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Agenda is approved as written. Scheduled reports. We have our financial update and audit status from Kelly Glenn. Make sure, there she is. Kelly, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Good evening, board.
Good evening.
All right, just a quick update on the financial status of the state aid allowance, or the per pupil amount, and also the audit update. I'll start with the audit update. This past week, the Public Schools fieldwork portion of the audit was completed. That's submitted currently with the partner of the auditing firm and waiting for approval. So we are on target to get that submitted for board approval next month. And as it relates to the financial update, so there's a lot of unknowns yet still with finance and the funding. I can tell you a few things that are known. Today was, this afternoon actually, was the August Revenue Consensus Conference, where there was a report out on the finances for the state of Michigan. They were specifically looking at the July revenue information and how much revenue was collected for taxes, because taxes, if you recall, were postponed from April 15th to July 15th. They now have those numbers and they were reported out today. What that means now is based on that revenue, we'll have an idea now of how bad the reduction will be for schools. We will still get a reduction, it's likely. However, the information was not as dire as back in the May revenue consensus. So I'm scheduled to have a meeting tomorrow where I'll get some more information, and obviously when I hear what that is, I will be sharing that with Superintendent Hilderly and with the board. Please recall though, even though they have a projected number, it still has to go through the legislative process and get signed by the governor. So there's still some time there before we get an official number. And I do believe the state also is really hoping there'll be some type of additional federal monies coming. Though obviously, that's an unknown right now as well.
Alrighty.
Any questions I can answer for the board with the limited knowledge that I have, but I'd be happy to address what I can.
Yeah, looks like Tim. No, just talking to the mic.
Okay. Well, I just got a message that people are having a hard time hearing. So maybe we need to speak into these a little bit louder or something. But anyway, I don't think we're going to lose $700 a student. I think we'll be more around the $300 mark. And it's conservative. So as much money as the federal government has poured into the economy, there is no way that they're going to do $700. And they were way off on their projections from May. I mean, way off. They weren't even close. So a lot of scare tactics going on. I know it's an election year and everybody's got their platform, but hold tight. It'll be all right. So.
Indeed. One moment here. I want to make sure that we have a good feed. Give our man behind the mixing board a moment. Sound is good? Okay.
It's better now, Kevin.
All right. Thank you, John. All right. Kelly, thank you very much for the information. And we will hopefully talk to you soon with good news. Next up on our agenda, discussion items for tonight starts off with the policy committee meeting of August 19th, which included employee policy for professional staff and support staff, our 3,000 and 4,000. Suzanne?
Basically, Rick can probably speak to it better than maybe since he dove in so much more. But basically, we had policies 3,000. We did not have policy 4,000. We somehow merged those two over the years. And now we've separated professional staff and support staff. So because there are differences. And maybe you can speak to exactly what those.
Right. There was previously a full, pretty full 3,000 series, but there were things that had been missed in updates in the last couple of years. So those were updated. And in the 4,000 series policy, most of those were taken out and combined with the 3,000 policy. 3,000 relates to professional staff and certified staff. 4,000 relates to support staff. And there's definitely some differences in the way that things take place in the district between the certified staff and the non-certified. So it's important to keep those things separate and get those updated. It was a little bit tedious to work through this particular series, both of these, but definitely things that need to be in place. And you'll have some time now to review those before the next meeting and ask any questions that you might have.
All right. Thank you very much. Were there questions, discussions? Everyone have a chance to look at the policy that was drafted? All right. It is a quiet room tonight.
Well, I did the raise hand. 'Cause that's
Oh.
what you-
You can just raise your hand if you're here.
Just making sure. I just wanted to make sure that we had looked at, we had the policy before where the staff was not allowed to talk to the board. Was that addressed?
The policy before, I believe, called, was it assigned a charge of misconduct, I think,
I
to
think that's what it was.
the staff if they spoke to the board. That was part of this section. I think that in this, Rick, refresh me, please. I believe in here it says, it's the original version of it, which says the staff should go through, must go through. What's the exact verbiage on that?
It says that the staff must go through their chain of command protocols. It does make a provision in the end of the policy having to do with social contact that board members and staff, especially in the size of a community like our own, are going to occasionally, run into each other or be in the same place. And those conversations are considered social contact. But in terms of an employee issuing a complaint to a board member, that does need to flow through the superintendent's office and the administration. And in the same way that the board members should communicate with staff on official topics through the superintendent and that channel.
Yeah, basically through the proper channels. It's not that they can't state their opinion, or
Exactly.
it's just like a teacher could say something to me, but if she has a formal complaint, it should go through the formal system.
I think the concern there is just that we want to maintain an open line of communication with employees. If they want to email us, and that's
It was a
fine.
big point of contention in the previous timeframe that the teachers were not allowed to share. And so we want to make sure that
Right.
we don't end up in that kind of a situation again. And I understand what you're saying. There's got to be a chain of command. I don't know. I guess that's
Well,
something.
we haven't had any problems with it so far.
We
I mean,
haven't.
it
We
already is
haven't.
our policy, and
Right.
we know that people email us and they copy Rick, or sometimes they don't copy Rick, and then we send it to Rick and say,
Right.
because for all of us to respond, it's just,
I think the
Yeah, it has to be.
differentiation should be made between communicating, sending an email, giving an opinion, and something that's an official action, a management of the district, things like that. I mean, we want everybody to send us emails to give us their opinions and let us know what they're seeing and what they're feeling. We don't want to shut down that avenue of communication, but if it involves a specific aspect of the district that's a management of the district, or a specific complaint in the district, that needs to go through the superintendent. So
Right. And what I try to advise board members on is that one of the main responsibilities of a board member is to listen. And once that listening has taken place and a conversation has happened, and certainly again in a district our size, those types of communications are going to happen. The end of that conversation should include something by the board member along the lines of, I appreciated our conversation and I hear what you're saying. I'm going to let the superintendent know that we spoke. And if there's no follow-up from the superintendent, please let me know.
right.
That gives them
Yeah.
the indication that you're doing your job, you're moving the information along, but you're not making a decision. You're not giving them an answer to a question. That would be the inappropriate part. The
Right.
appropriate part is, as I said, for board members to listen and to pass the information along to the superintendent for some action to be taken.
Is everybody supposed to see the boardroom or John? Or is he?
They're seeing us up there, Suzanne.
Okay.
I think it depends on how your computer's set. Devin,
No,
you want to
we're
take a
all
quick
seeing
look at
John.
that? Say, I'm looking right now and trying to turn off the cameras. I have locked on it on my end.
No offense, John.
It's okay. I'm just disappointed I don't have a close-up of you, Suzanne.
I bet you are.
As we all are.
All right, let me give a workaround on this.
While Kevin's doing that, I'll add a thought about this. That with our previous administration and just some of the issues that happened, the employees, I believe there were ramifications for employees to reach out to the board and not go through the superintendent. And I just want to make sure that, the policy doesn't read that that the employees can't go to the board in extenuating circumstances. I think it's important that they follow the chain of command. If that's not possible and they still feel like they're not being heard or there's no resolution to what they're asking for, I think the next step would be to either go to the HR director or to the board. But I don't want employees to ever feel like they can't come to us if something's not getting resolved, that they feel needs to be resolved.
Truly, this isn't a current reflection on you, Rick. That's.
No,
Okay.
I understand the conversation because it's an important one. And everybody does need to understand what their roles and responsibilities are.
Tim, did you have input? Okay, well, I suppose the two ways we could address this, the first way would be to revisit the verbiage of it, because that's where it lies. You don't want to have such a concrete, hard, definite, absolutely verboten. You want to maybe preferred method, or maybe change the verbiage of it a little bit. That might be something that we can have reviewed to make it clear that for business related communication through the superintendent, but we don't want to shut down their voices.
Right.
That's for sure.
We never want anybody to feel like that again.
Mhm. And the policy statement is relatively brief. The details usually get fleshed out in the administrative guidelines. So that's another place that the more specific direction can be given for the staff to follow.
Okay.
It shouldn't be the intention of the board or the superintendent to stifle communication with staff. The problem becomes if a board member gives the impression that they're going to take care of something.
Right.
And they don't really necessarily have the authority to do that. That's why I always advise the board members to follow up the conversation with, I'm going to let the superintendent know that we spoke about this. And if you don't have any follow-up from the superintendent's office relatively soon, please let me know. And that maintains the chain of command while also allows board members to hear the concerns of staff.
And in our current situation, I'm fine with that.
Now, there is a question. You referred to the administrative guidelines that go into more detail. We're getting those administrative guidelines, template of them from Neola, correct?
Correct. They will come after the policies are all renewed.
Possibly, could we get a sampling or an example or the template for that specific item so that we can look at it next week with the policy and then see if that says what we're comfortable with saying?
Okay, we'll see what Neola has on that topic.
All right. Devin, just a moment. I got a message just a minute ago that it's still difficult to hear us on the live stream end. Could you pop the gain up or could you check it, please? Okay. So just be sure that we're speaking into the microphone when we speak. And we'll move forward.
Okay.
Was there any more discussion on the policy?
No.
All right. Next up on our discussion is the Title IV policy, which is, I believe, mostly new or updated. I'm going to let you take that
It's
one.
updated. It's actually the Title IX, and Title IX
right.
is the non-discrimination based on gender. That has been updated, and what we're asking the board to do with that tonight is to officially appoint a Title IX coordinator for the district. That's something that needs to get done because the policy is now active and requires a Title IX coordinator. And then we will be compliant with the policy up to this point.
All right.
You have in your packet the previous Title IX language and the updated and current language.
All right, anyone have any questions on that? Let me double check my feed to make sure that. John, you're good?
I'm good.
All right, thank you. Next and last item for our discussion is the Tecumseh Education Association, also known as the TEA. I believe we have a tentative contract agreement or extension of some form with them, correct, Rick?
We do have a tentative agreement with the TEA, which I was notified today from their leadership, has been ratified by their association. So the board can take action on that. We negotiated a few times and we made very good progress on some language items. But the prudent thing to do at that time seemed to be to agree to a 1-year extension of the current contract and continue our work beginning in January for a new agreement at some point next year.
All right. Questions on the TEA contract?
Were there any changes or is it basically just an agreement to extend it, period?
Just an extension of the current language. The largest piece that we tried to come to an agreement on has to do with salaries, as is typically the case in contract negotiations. A few years ago, the TEA moved away from a salary structure that involved a schedule with lanes and steps, and they moved to what's referred to a wage base contract. And we have been trying to put together a new salary schedule. And we had previously budgeted for the increases that were allowed under the wage base system. And we just felt like that it was prudent at this time financially to allow the increases within the contract for merit pay to take place this year and roll forward, because we had previously budgeted for them in the 2021 contract.
Right.
And because there were too many unknowns, we had to make that deal before their contract renews actually September 1st. The old one expires August 31st. So we just decided we'd come to a point that was what was best in the interest of the district and our employees. And we'll continue to work on language items and create a new salary schedule system when we have better financial information.
All right, thank you.
Can people see us? Because someone just texted me and said they only can see benzene. And they can't hear us still.
Right now, they
Now-
can see us and
Yeah.
they can see John.
And see,
Are the
John,
two
and
windows up?
they're saying the sound is much better. At least I'm getting some chats on the live feed.
It's also going to be dependent on how their computer is set, if it's gallery view or speaker view.
No, a minute ago, we were all saw John. I didn't touch mine and now I can see the room again.
Okay.
So,
Oh, I'm sorry. You're correct. A couple computers at one time. I got confused. Yes, indeed. Maybe it's me. In any case, right now they can see the board in total, John and us.
Yeah, they can see me and the rest of you guys.
All right, that may be how I have it set. We'll make a note of that for the future here.
Just like
All right.
many things, it's a learning curve right now.
Yeah, it is a learning curve. This is our first hybrid meeting. I think in another 2 months, we'll try our first underwater scuba meeting, and then
I like
then
it.
maybe our new parachute meeting. I don't know.
Okay,
Ooh,
yeah.
Action items is what we're up to on the agenda.
All right. I hereby move to approve the full 2020-21 district calendar with starting, ending dates, semesters, trimesters, and marking periods, half-day schedules, and professional development days as presented which includes a total of 180 student days as required.
Support.
Roll call vote.
So,
Tim?
Discussion.
What?
Discussion.
I'm sorry.
I didn't see the calendar in my,
It's 11 pages.
It was month by month.
oh, okay, it's not the traditional.
No.
calendar.
Not the simple one pager, which
Okay.
is what we'll create out of that.
Okay.
It's the ninth slide.
Yeah, I got it now.
Yeah, essentially all we did
Here.
was, and honestly, I want to thank the TEA for this. The meeting to create this new calendar took about 20 minutes. More or less, we just moved the dates for the marking periods, conferences, semesters, and start and end date based on the change to the September 8th start of school. So thank you to them for being patient with us and working on that. And we apologize to parents as well. I know they've been waiting for this calendar to come out, but I think that it was necessary to make all these adjustments. So we will have this out to the parents tomorrow morning, pending approval this evening.
So are we running 2 semesters or are we running?
We
full
are
9
running
weeks?
K4 trimesters and 5/8, 5/12 semesters with marking periods.
2 9-week marking periods.
Correct.
And everybody is good on that this
Yes.
time? Okay. And then the semester ends, first semester ends in January?
Yeah, the semester break in January, especially with the move to September 8th, the imbalance was just too great. So the marking period, the first semester now ends in late January.
Just trying to- Okay. At some point, I'd like to talk about Martin Luther King Day. I mean, a little late in the game now, but President's Day as well. I think maybe we could do maybe a half day on those and dedicate those days to teaching of Martin Luther King and the presidents that are honored on those days. So I would like to look at something for that next year.
Sure, we can make that proposal.
Yeah, because I think it's very important for them to understand what those days mean and who those individuals are. So.
Agreed. We will get that. Becky, could you make a note of that, please?
I am taking notes.
Thank you,
could read
Suzanne.
it,
Or
please?
not.
All right. And that brings us back to, all right, any further discussion on the calendar?
No, sir.
All right, let me verify. Yep, everybody's okay then. Let's move on to the vote. Roll call vote. Tim,
Aye.
Becky,
Aye.
Suzanne,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Calendar is approved unanimously. Next, we have the appointment of our Title IX coordinator.
I hereby move to appoint Richard Hilderly, Superintendent, or his designee, as the Title IX Coordinator for TPS effective with the 2020-2021 school year, and authorize administration to proceed with policy development and staff training related to the new Title IX requirements.
Support.
Second.
Roll call vote. Tim,
Aye.
Suzanne,
Aye.
Becky,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Motion passes. TEA contract ratification.
I hereby move to approve the tentative agreement and contract ratification with the Tecumseh Education Association, TEA, and the master agreement for the 2020-2021 school year as presented.
Support.
Roll call vote. Tim,
Aye.
Becky,
Aye.
Suzanne,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Contract is accepted.
I think we also make it clear that these raises were already in our budget for this coming year.
Yes, the
So
board
Yeah,
passed
they're
the
like
budget
steps,
in,
right?
right.
Kind of.
The board passed the budget in June, end of June, and in it, it included the merit pay increases that are in the contract. Each employee's merit pay increase would kick in based on their evaluation score. It was previously budgeted for, and that's what you're basically accepting with the ratification tonight, is that those merit pay increases will be held for the coming school year.
All right, that'll move us right into our superintendent. Nope, consent agenda. I apologize.
I hereby move to approve the consent agenda, which includes the following items: minutes from the regular board meeting of August 10th, 2020, minutes from the Board Policy Committee meeting of August 19th, 2020.
Support.
second,
Say again?
second, second,
Second support?
third.
Fourth. All right,
Give it
roll
to
call
Tim.
vote. Tim?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Consent agenda is approved. That brings us to our superintendent's report, which is an update on plans for the 2020 and 2021 school opening. Rick?
Yes, planning continues. I was able to move around the district and take some photographs end of last week of some of the classroom setups. They look a little bit different, especially as compared to the recent past. Classrooms are set up pretty much with desks in straight rows with gaps and students facing in the same direction as is suggested in the roadmap. So just trying to get those things right. We did have a policy committee meeting. You mentioned that in the consent agenda. And we talked with representatives from the Teachers Association. We had a couple of board members and we had some guests from the health department to talk about the K-4 mask requirements. And through that discussion, it was brought up that the CDC has updated its guidelines about mask wearing for younger students. It was previously recommended for children, I believe, 7 years and under to not wear masks, and now their recommendation is for children 2 and younger.
2 and up.
Yes, so 2 and up can wear masks, and 2 and below, it's not recommended. So we had a discussion with that group. I think the health department, their feeling is that every time you wear masks, that you are decreasing the likelihood of the spread of communicable diseases. So they were on board with that. In our return to school roadmap plan, we had 2 items that we varied from strong recommendations, and one of them had to do with masks. What we're saying right now is the masks will not be required for all students in their classrooms, just in their common areas, on the bus, and moving around the building outside of the classroom. So that's something that could be changed before the start of school if the board feels that that's an important thing to address. I certainly can address that in the plan. Aside from that, for the school opening, we are trying to perfect instructional delivery plans. I think one of the difficult things to get worked out so far has been the blended instructional plan for 9th through 12th graders in the distance learning platform. The TVA is fairly simple because that's kind of an anytime, anywhere platform. And of course, live instruction follows all of the direction of live instruction, even under normal circumstances. In distance learning, in pre-K through 8, we can cohort our kids, which means they will stay with the same teacher in the same location for most of their day. 9-12, it's not that simple. Regardless of the structure of the schedule, whether it's a block schedule or a period schedule, if you separate the distance platform from the live instruction platform, we simply can't staff that, and we can't social distance the way that we would like to be able to. For instance, if first hour, if 6 of our teachers are teaching just kids who are socially distanced, then that's 6 fewer classrooms that we can divide the 750 kids who are learning in person. So by doing that, we actually make our class sizes go up when we ask our teachers to teach that way. So we've created a blended plan where we've asked teachers to either simply turn their classroom camera on or their computer camera and teach while the distance kids follow along the live instruction students. We have also given teachers the option to create their own instructional videos, which many teachers are currently using, even under normal circumstances. And then the third option, because we have purchased the Edmentum curriculum, which is the curriculum that is in the TVA and has pre-recorded videos for all of our subject areas, then we've put that on the table for staff to be able to use as their instructional delivery, so that a teacher would start and end the class all live, with the instruction happening at some point during the middle. So we're still trying to perfect that and get some agreements on how that can be something that works out. Our goal in our where we started from when we began to design this method has always been that we believe that our students deserve our teachers, and that aside from live face-to-face instruction, our next best option for our students is to provide them our teachers at a distance. And we have, like I said, a pretty good platform, Wi-Fi through 8. 9-12, we have what we're calling the next best thing, which is the blended plan of some students at a distance while some kids are learning live. So there'll be some growing pains on that, but I do believe that our teachers have the skill, and that we have provided opportunities for training for that to happen, and we will continue to work to make those things as good as we can while we're in this very unusual circumstance. So those things are our primary focus right now. And then aside from that are the very, very small details, the things that that really need some time for us to get figured out. One of those we talked about today with our maintenance director, Mr. Hawkins. We have some pretty clear cleaning protocols. In fact, in the roadmap, most of the requirements, most of the required areas have to do with cleaning and disinfecting and those things. So what we're wondering is what happens if we have some of our custodial staff unable to work? What's going to be our response if his already smaller than last year sized staff gets reduced for a particular reason, whether they're ill or for some reason unable to work? Can we still fulfill the requirements in the roadmap to make sure that our classrooms are getting cleaned? And if we can't, what's our response to that going to be? So those are the difficult details. I'm sure that Tecumseh is no different than other places, because not a lot of people are lining up to become substitute custodians in a global pandemic. So we're trying to figure out just exactly how we can fill those gaps if it becomes necessary. So really starting to boil down into the what ifs related to the logistics and the safety issues of how we're going to run schools. So that's where we are right now. If you have any questions or any other thoughts or things that you're wondering about, I'd be happy to answer your questions.
John Benzing had his hand up here. I think he would like to chime in.
Rick, did I understand you correctly where you were saying that the kids who are not in the virtual academy might be getting virtual academy curriculum through the distance learning model?
They could potentially. We've given that option to staff, and we do have some staff members who will be using the Edmentum curriculum. One of the reasons for that is, as you probably followed, the new legislation related to going back to school requires us to do some pre-testing and some post-testing and establish goals. And because Edmentum is the curriculum that's going to be used in the TVA, then we're going to use the diagnostic tool from Edmentum as our pre and post testing. That way, we give all of the students the opportunity to grow at the same rate. So the Edmentum curriculum is something that the teachers have access to. We trained on since this started in the spring, and aligns, of course, with the state mandated curriculum. So yes, it's possible that students, not only in the distance platform, but also in our face-to-face teaching and learning, could also be accessing the Edmentum curriculum.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're not, that this kids in the distance learning program and the kids in face-to-face learning are doing the same thing. Because the way it could be conceived based on the way you said it was that the distance learning kids would just get the virtual academy curriculum, which would defeat the purpose of having that. So I just want to, I want to make sure everybody understands that.
Yeah, it's a good clarification. Definitely students in the distance platform, regardless of whether or not they access some of the curriculum from Edmentum, they will still be getting direct instruction and guidance from Tecumseh Public Schools teachers on a daily basis.
Would it be fair to say that the Admentum that would be used for the distance learning is more a teaching tool, a online or digital teaching tool added to the teacher's toolbox
Yes,
to make
yep.
it easier?
Just one of the tools, until, we're really good at producing our own recorded video, or teachers become more comfortable with teaching in the blended live stream and live student environment. It's a choice that we've given them to just have a tool to go to until they're comfortable.
How, what technology are we going to use for this? And is it here? Has anybody been trained on it, or
The technology in terms of the student devices?
no? As far as setting up a camera in the room and who's going to push the let's go, it's movie, action.
Well, Devin might be able to tell us more about what could happen. I know that it's possible to be as simple as the teacher teaching in a room where their computer is on with a directional microphone, and have the distance students follow along. It's as complicated as a system with a swivel camera called Swivel, that we do have demoed right now, and we have shown certain members of the high school staff how that can work, and they're relatively simple for us to get. We ordered one on a Tuesday, and we had it the following Monday. And the swivel camera, the advantage to that is that it follows the speaker around the room and also picks up their audio. And you can also put extra markers around the room so that if you're having a conversation with other students, their voice will be picked up as well. So there's a range that we're willing to support and train and use. My guess is like most other things, over time, they'll become more comfortable and knowledgeable about how it can be used.
Well, and then I was even thinking in the future, if somebody were somewhat sick or they had a, bad tooth and they'd be out of school for a week or whatever, but felt comfortable enough to be in some of their classes, that would be a way to help people stay connected even when they were out sick
Yeah,
or
so
a
the
broken arm or a surgery or
potential
Snow day.
exists that we
right.
could
No more snow days. Just kidding.
we could come out of the pandemic with some new ideas
Right.
in education about
Yeah.
how to deal with long-term illnesses and
Right.
absences and distance learning on vacations and things like that.
Right.
The potential based on how far we've come from March until now in our knowledge of how to, gather from around the world, I do see that there's potential for that.
I guess my big concern with it is doing the mix is that the students sitting at home are going to feel left out, and they're not going to get the attention that they probably would get if they were sitting in the classroom. Whereas if they had a one-on-one, it would be much better for them. So
It is,
and I understand we got a bunch of electives here in the high school. I don't know how many we have, probably 40, 50, but maybe we need to cut some of those back and
Well,
redo the
I think there's
schedule.
going to be some of them that you can't do from a distance learning point of view.
we
I
do.
mean,
We have, I think,
It's going to be hard to do ceramics from home.
66 different course offerings at the high school that do make the distance platform in terms of a cohort rather difficult. I know that there's definitely, I will absolutely admit that there's definitely a little bit of a drop off in quality between live instruction in the classroom and the distance learning. And that I would say that there's a further step in quality from the distance learning platform down to the TVA. I do hope, and I know that because I've talked to lots of parents, that they have juggled that and they have balanced that in their decision making, understanding that what they're giving up in terms of quality, they're gaining in terms of their own personal feeling of safety. And every family has had to have that very challenging discussion. And I know people went back and forth right up until they made that decision. We know that our teachers in front of our kids in our classrooms gives our kids the best opportunity to learn and to achieve. Next best, we feel, is the distance learning. And if a family is unable to meet our schedule, then we provided the TVA option because it gives them more schedule flexibility.
So taking the testing, because the state requires us to test at the beginning and at the end of the school year. Are we going to do any testing in the middle to see how we're doing? So we can change something?
Yeah,
if we
actually,
need
I think
to?
the first testing requirement is February, if I remember correctly, that we will have to update our board on progress by February. So
That's the requirement from the state, correct?
Right.
right.
So we could
But
feasibly
that
use
requirement is
Admentum.
The first test that you have to update.
The
or something.
first
But I'm
test
wondering
has to
about the
be-
second test. So we
right,
have
the
3
goal-
tests.
The goals have to be done by October 1st. And then there is a report requirement, basically midterm, like I said, in February, and then a follow-up. So basically 3 different times that we will have to assess our goals. Well,
Assessing goals, but how are we going to know where we're at if we only do one at the beginning, one test at the beginning and one at the end of the year?
right, we'll have to probably run that diagnostic a third time.
I think that's
I-
very important,
Especially this year.
especially this year.
Yes.
To understand
Mhm.
the distance learning, the TVA, in person. Right. So
I think what we're talking here, we need to separate the two things. We have a requirement from the state to quantify or validate progress. But at the same time, if we have, and I don't have enough knowledge about Edmentum to make this this reach. However, if we have Edmentum or something else that we test kids at a more frequent period, so we can benchmark internally their progress, separate from the state requirement. I think that's what Tim's probably getting at is, hey, let's get to school for 2 months and let's see if there's any progress. Let's test again after 2 months and see, just
Set some benchmarks, see where we're at.
set some benchmarks internally that are a little bit more, as long as we can manage it. I mean, we already are tasking everybody in the district.
And I don't want to test them to death.
No, we don't want to test them to death, but that's what I'm
Right.
saying. We don't want to have to create it.
But we want to see some progress.
But if they go on, if it's computer based like Admentum, and there's a metric test there, a test just to see what they're learning, what progress they're making, and it's something that takes them 45 minutes, that would be something that would be usable. We can't expect already the amount of complication in the district with COVID.
Mhm.
We don't want to add one more, but if we have something that we can go to that'll provide a quick and dirty benchmark, I think that's what Tim's saying is let's make sure internally, forget the state, we'll give them the report, but let's make sure internally that what we're doing is
Well,
effective.
wasn't our math department tracking a lot of that stuff? We had taxed them a year ago with,
But that was NWEA. That's a whole.
That's the Alex program virtually monitors everything.
I think the Alex program does it in real time because the kids are constantly in it. So it does
Exactly.
it with the kids real time.
Do we know
Yeah.
if Edmentum has any type of feature like that? I know that Alex program is pretty awesome.
that's math though, right?
It is.
Alex
Yeah,
is
but-
specifically related to math. So, we can talk more about what Edmentum's diagnostic can provide, the length of time that it takes to test, and the information that it will report back to us.
Okay.
Jake Anastasov, who's doing most of our curriculum coordination, can certainly give us an update on how that looks. And also Greg Dolson, because it's a tool that has been used through the virtual academy in the past. So I will have the two of them get together and create a report for us.
Okay.
Uh,
I think it's important because let's face it, last spring or
Yeah, there's
when-
going to be
when we
tremendous
shut down.
backslide.
there's going to be a huge slide.
Yeah.
And this environment we're in, we're going to make gains, but we're not going to make probably spectacular gains because of,
Yeah.
especially, the distance learning and TVA kids, they're going to suffer a little bit more because they're not going to get that face-to-face one-on-one. So I think it's really important to understand where each student is through this process. So
Yeah,
at
I
least-
agree.
At least do it 3 times a year to know where we're at. So.
Right.
I think John has interjection here. John?
The only thing I was going to say is that, 70% of our kids, based on the numbers that we have right now, are going to be back in school. So the 30% of the kids actually have 2 different options to learn, and, they're going to have opportunities. The other thing is we just don't know what's going to happen from day to day, week to week, month to month. I mean, we could have 90% of our kids back in school by January, or we could have less. So I think, the best thing we can do is come up with plans and stick with them and, make adjustments as the adjustments actually happen instead of trying to create a bunch of what if scenarios, because the more what if scenarios we create, the more time we're just going to spend spinning our wheels. So I think, we've got 3 programs that are going to work well for the kids, and, we'll see what happens in the next 6 months. And, hopefully we'll have most of our kids back in the classroom before the end of this school year.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Indeed. I would like to add something, but before, Rick, do you happen off top of your head know what our current count or balance is going virtual compared to in-person learning?
I don't know the exact numbers. I know that it's in a document that we have saved, but it's roughly 25% virtual and 75% distance in terms of the kids that are not coming back face to face.
And that virtual includes both our TVA and the distance learning?
Yeah, of all of the kids who are not coming back face to face, so that 30% that John mentioned, of that 30%, about 3/4 of them are coming back in the distance model, and about 1/4 of them are coming back in the TVA.
So we've seen modest increases in TVA. Most of them are going the distance model, probably hoping to transition right back
Right,
into
and
school.
I think that that's the important part for the parents who've selected the distance learning, is that gives them the most direct path back into our in-person learning when they're comfortable.
Right.
It's the easiest transfer from one day to the next.
And I guess what I'd like to add to the conversation is I hope that everyone's on the same page that we are not going to start out perfectly. I mean, it's like this board meeting. We went to virtual board meetings and I was just getting comfortable with managing the 2 computers at the board meeting, being involved in the board meeting. Now we're to a hybrid, which was a whole new set of challenges. I expect that there'll be improvements, there'll be changes, there'll be things they're dropped from the programming, there'll be things that are picked up. It'll be an evolution, and just like any evolution, when it's forced too early or when it's forced because of a pandemic, it doesn't matter why it's forced.
Mhm.
If you force the evolution of something, it's a rough go. It doesn't matter curriculum, that we're just evolving. We're evolving tools for the classroom at this point. We've gone from the stone and chisel to the quill and ink. We got up to books, pencil, paper. We got into computers. Now those computers, it's broadening out. This is an evolution of it. It has a specific place and a purpose, and it's going to take some time. Unfortunately, it's kind of forced on us with COVID. So it's going to take some time to work the bugs out of it. And nobody expects the teachers to come back and just be, 100% effective like they were last fall. I don't
Right.
expect them to get the same value out to all the students. And I don't
Right.
think a parent should expect that either. There should be the realization that we are doing things that we never even imagined doing. And there is nobody who's done it exactly how everybody's doing it now, and everybody's figuring it out as they go. We don't have a perfect program or example. We can just make a phone call, get it in the schools, and it works perfectly.
Right.
So
Yeah, we're going to be as ready as we can be, but like you said, we we know that we're going to be better at it over time than we are when we start. And we're going to support our people as much as we can with training and planning and giving them the things that they need. But we still believe that that distance learning model is an appropriate thing to offer our families.
and it's also important that we do have at least a pilot group doing it, because if we do get forced back into stage 3, everybody's going to be virtual. Having a pilot group in there that's small, and I mean, roughly, is it 150 in the high school?
About 150 kids in the high school. And the
150 in the
distance
high
platform,
school, and you get into those smaller groups, and it's easier to manage the problems because it's just a smaller group. And I think that those teachers are going to work through the problems. And if we get forced back into all virtual, just like our virtual academy, we're going to have that basis behind us and that experience to help us move forward more effectively.
Yeah. Right.
All right.
Okay, so that's all I have for my report this evening.
I have another question on that.
Sure.
So we know that some of our sports have been moved around, MSHA, made some recommendations on that. What is going on with some of the other activities that the state had talked about, such as band, choir, that sort of thing? Where are we at with that?
Still with band and choir, the only recommendation from the health department and CDC is for singing and instrument playing outdoors. So going to hope for good weather for as long as we can get it, unless there's a change in that recommendation. That we've been in close communication and regular planning with our music staff. But as of now, that's still the guidance from the health department, is that those activities are only recommended outdoors.
Not even like in a big gym. We're all spread out outside.
So we've modified that program.
We have modified that program as a result of those things. One of the things that the music folks decided was that we wouldn't provide an introductory program this year, that we would focus on the students who are within our program now. Very difficult to provide baseline instruction for those music programs, especially instrumental music programs, to fifth graders like we have in the past. Because when you're first learning those instruments, the type of instruction that we're going to be able to provide this year would be very difficult for just learning an instrument. So we've put that aside for now, and we're going to work with the students who have been in the program. And like I said, that's something that's been developed side by side with the music instruction staff.
So again, that's going to be something that is more of a face-to-face curriculum. And we're going to see some of those things that
Yeah.
obviously don't translate well for distance learning.
Exactly.
All right, any more discussion? Double check John here. He
I'm
looks
good.
All right, thank you, John. All right, items scheduled for the next agenda. We're going to have a monthly finance update. We're going to have our food service update. The policy 3000 and 4000, we have action items on that, and the Title IX policy. We're going to have action items on that, apparently, which will bring us to our closing. We have our public comment. We had one registrant for our public comment. Let me see if I
I
can.
don't think we need Title IX on there again.
I'm
We
assuming.
didn't approve the policy.
It's the actual policy.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha, sorry.
Okay. Our registrant tonight is, right there she is. It is Jennifer Gentry, one of our teachers, and she is speaking, I believe, on behalf of more than just herself. So we are allowing her more than the usual public comment. I was trying to find a place to put her into our agenda as it was written. However, this just was the best place to put it instead of changing it at the last minute. So Jennifer, good evening and welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me here tonight. Good evening. I'm Jennifer Gentry, speaking as president of the Tecumseh Education Association today in regard to the high school distance learning plan as proposed by administration. At this time, 92% of our high school members are not comfortable implementing this platform. I am here to bring these concerns to the attention of the board. For grades Y5 through 8, which makes up the largest portion of our distance students, the district was able to place students into cohorts to create separate classes and/or teams for distance students. Unfortunately, administration has said that they are not able to do this at the secondary level. Therefore, they are proposing that these teachers teach both face-to-face students and distance students at the same time. This is not the same as having a class of just distance students like we would have if we were sent back to phase 3. Our high school members are worried about this plan because of the impact that it will have on both our face-to-face students and distance students. First and foremost, I want to make it abundantly clear that our teachers are not opposed to working harder, to working beyond their contracted day, or to trying new things. Our worry here is what is best for all of our students. Here are a few of our concerns. First, distance instruction and face-to-face instruction are two very different animals. Preparing and presenting lessons through these platforms simultaneously is just not a feasible request. One group will constantly be shortchanged and or ignored. When we brought this up to administration, it was suggested that we flip the classroom and just prepare for distance learning using pre-recorded lessons or lectures. That would have our face-to-face students literally sitting in a classroom being taught as if they were in an online class, possibly the whole day. This is not how our teachers want to teach and interact with students. We're wondering if the parents in the community are aware of this. These parents made the decision to send their children to school wearing a mask all day, carrying their things around all day, having way less social interaction and possible exposure to illness because they believe, just as we do, that our teachers teaching and working with their kids in person gives them the best educational opportunity. Conversely, are the distance parents aware that their child may be ignored for long periods of time while the teacher addresses and manages situations in the classroom and can't get back over to his or her desk to look at the computer screen to see if there's an issue or a question? As teachers, we also have an uneasiness regarding verifying that the students from the distance side are actually online and participating. We can't physically monitor that and keep checking for their engagement while we're monitoring and checking for the engagement of the students in the room. We do not feel it is best to sit at our desks in front of our computers and lecture students in both settings so that we can see our computer screen and monitor. How does that make it worth the time and effort for the students who came to school? Secondly, we as teachers are extremely uneasy with our classes being live streamed for a number of reasons. We are extremely worried about our students' right to privacy being violated. We are apprehensive about having our students and our own words and actions being streamed into homes and taken out of context. It makes us nervous that we do not have control of what is being done at home or in the background being zoomed into our classroom as well. Thirdly, we're not sure that we will have the technology nor the technological support to pull this off. We know our district is working hard to make upgrades to our internet access and equipment, but we just do not feel confident that it'll be here and ready to go when we begin school. We aren't sure what we're going to do if there's a major tech issue in the middle of class. We don't have a large enough staff to have people on call to fix those issues immediately. We don't know what this would mean for those distance students. Do we keep teaching the in-person students and ignore the problem? Do we stop the whole class and have everybody just sit there while we wait? If the distance student misses a portion of class due to technological issues, do we have to make up that lesson for them? How or when would we do that? These are just a few of the main concerns that our high school teachers have regarding the idea of teaching students both face-to-face and in a distance environment simultaneously. The TA leadership team did reach out to administration when we first became aware of this plan at the end of July to share our concerns and let them know that we were not in support of it before it was even presented to families. We have constantly asked to meet with administration over the past months to work on a different approach, and we appreciate that they have brought us in and we have had several discussions, but administration has not entertained any other options. This is an oddly familiar ring to our teachers. We already feel extra stressed and anxious about returning face-to-face with all of the risks and changes that have to be made in order to meet the state's safe return guidelines. We've been working tirelessly this summer to adjust our lessons and plans that have previously included things where students were working closely together. We've been attending professional development to learn new technology platforms. We've been creating, scanning, and uploading documents. This board has repeatedly said that it not only wants to hear teachers, it wants to listen to them and value their input. Well, tonight, we are giving you that opportunity. The Tecumseh Education Association respectfully requests that the board work with the association to implement an alternative for distance learning that does not require teachers to be live streamed during face-to-face instruction. As I stated earlier, we're not afraid of distance learning. We all know we'll probably be doing it with all of our students at some point this year. We're not afraid of working harder, learning or trying new things or new ways to deliver curriculum. What we are afraid of is that we're being set up to fail. And I don't mean having a lesson plan flop or failing to get something recorded in a timely fashion. What I mean is we're afraid of failing our kids. And I just can't figure out why, especially during these uncertain and unprecedented times, our district would want to add to the apprehension and anxiety that our teachers are already experiencing. I'd be happy to email each of you a copy of the statement so you can read it and process it at your own pace. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have those at another time. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jennifer. Please
Thank
do
you.
email us the copy of it. That way
I
we'll
will.
have it.
Thank you.
Suzanne, I'm sorry. I think I stepped on you there while you were starting to speak.
No.
Was that you?
No.
I thought I stepped on somebody. Was it John?
No, I mean, I do have some comments, but I wasn't
Okay.
ready. Or if someone else has something. I guess my first question would be,
Well, no,
Is
we're not
this-
moving forward
is
here.
the whole class in a Zoom session?
They could be, possibly. It's been said that they could all be Zooming. It's also said that they could just be on the computer like I'm on right now. And these kids are Zooming and I turn you towards you so you can see me at my board and then the rest of the class is in the room and I'm trying to do both things at one time. And that's where our apprehension really has us. How can we do those things at the same time? And
Kinda
Well,
like
I
our
would-
board Meeting tonight.
I would think that if there's a camera focused on the teacher during the lesson plan, the children at home are going to see the same things that the kids in the school in the seats are going to see. So I'm not sure how that part is different. And if the teacher's in control of the Zoom session, anything in the background of those Zoom kids is only going to affect the handful of Zoom kids in each classroom.
Well, we don't have cameras in the room. We would be using the laptop camera that we have. And so the camera would be set at the desk. And yes, it would be on me until I need to move over there to do something else, or I need to help a student over there. And then it's just looking here. If something pops up on the Zoom or somebody needs help, I don't know that because I'm across the room, not at my desk. I mean, these are the issues that we're very concerned about.
I guess the big thing is we all are doing different things in our workplace. Every one of us has challenges and there's new things that we all have to adapt to. This isn't going to be easy. It's not going to be perfect. There's going to be growing pains, but I think that we all need to at least to try to make this work the best we can in the beginning, unless there's a better alternative. But I don't know how you have a better alternative with the resources that we have, because we have 150 kids in this program spread out over, what do you say, 60 some odd classes. So you're going to have a handful of kids in each room. There's no way to cohort those kids to make this a distance learning. So, and Rick was just talking tonight about a camera that follows the teacher around the room, that mics them individually. It mics the kids individually when they're asking questions. So if we have those cameras in the rooms, the kids that are doing this virtually would basically have the same experience as the kids in the room. So I think that there's technology and there's options out there to make this better than what it sounds right now. But yeah, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be easy, but it's what we have to work with today.
I have a question for Devin. Is there a way to alert someone when if they walk away, say they're at their whiteboard and you have your computer facing the whiteboard and then they walk away to do something, you could still have it facing the whiteboard, but if somebody had a question, is there a way to have it make a noise, like you're getting a text, it dings or whatever, so the teacher would know? Okay,
And we are switching to Google Meet is my
Okay.
understanding.
Most of these would be through Google.
right, okay.
So I believe Vice President John called last night. Is that?
Yeah.
Is his name? So,
Yeah,
I mean, we did have a conversation, about some of this stuff already. And I thought we had a really good conversation, and, he expressed some of these concerns, and I kind of had the same conversation as what John just said, that I get what you're saying. I do. But we are all trying to find the best way to make this work for everyone. And it is not easy. And don't take that as me saying that the teachers aren't going to work hard. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there are certainly going to be growing pains. And my conversation with John was, we just need to try. We need to see how it's going to work and see if we can make it happen. Obviously, if we get into it and there's more to it than maybe meets the eye, we may have to reevaluate. But at this point, we have several families that are counting on us, even though they're aware that there is going to be some growing pains in that technology. that there's a possibility that their student is not going to have the same quality, shall we call it, as face-to-face, but that's what they are asking us to do for their family. And so I know it's difficult, but I'm hoping that our teachers are going to continue looking for ways to make it work for our Tecumseh families.
Well, we are extremely concerned that we do not have these resources here, that we will not have, the support other than cheerleaders, which we have some great administrators who are wonderful cheerleaders. We are afraid that we are being set up to fail. And I think if over 90% of the teachers at the high school feel that way, I think that's something that this board should listen to.
I would agree. But fail for who?
As I stated, we feel like we're going to fail our kids, that we can't do two things at once. And teachers, I'll tell you what, we are the best at multitasking that you probably have seen. We are very good at it, but this makes us feel like these are two very different things. Distance teaching and live teaching face-to-face are two extremely different things. And trying to manage them at the same time is something that we just don't feel that we will be able to succeed at.
Well, I'm gonna go back to your July statement. I'm not sure why the teachers weren't involved. Rick, I really think that there's a big disconnect here between the teachers and the admin, and that's not my vision of why I wanted you here. I wanted you here to bring the team together, and there is a big disconnect, and we need to get this figured out because it's not the teachers, it's not against the admin. They shouldn't be fighting. We should all be on the same page, working toward the same thing, and that's what's best for our students. And I don't know what's going on in the background. I don't. But I think the TEA should have somebody at the ad team meetings so everybody can work together. I think there needs to be a committee set up tomorrow to get this ironed out, and figure this out, because if we don't have happy teachers, we're not going to have good, happy students. And they're not making any threats or anything or doing anything of that sort, but they're just telling you what they're feeling and what they feel. And they're telling them they don't think this is what's good for students. And I have to believe them. They're in the classroom. I'm not in the class. I'm not a teacher. Okay. And I know in my organization, we just don't go around making decisions without everybody's input. Because when you don't have that, this is what you get. And so I think, I'll make a motion right now, set up a committee tomorrow and let's get this ironed out. If we got to come back in a couple days and get this figured out, let's do it. But these are our kids. We got to make sure everybody is going to be represented correctly. So if we got a kid
Well,
that's sitting at
I
home,
get that
hang on, I'm
high
not
schools-
done. I'm not done.
All right.
If we got a kid sitting at home and he's not getting the best benefit out of it, okay, because his parents don't feel it's safe to send him to school, that's not fair to that child. That's not. So we got to look at this equity wise. And maybe we don't offer 60 electives. Maybe we cut that down. I don't know. Maybe
Well,
we have to
obviously
redo the
we
master
can't.
schedule or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we can't do that. What you're asking for, Tim, isn't feasible.
Well,
We
John,
don't have
everything's
resources.
feasible. We can do that. So
Are you
everything-
going to hire 100 more teachers?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying maybe we need to redo the master schedule and cut out some of these electives. We've got plenty of teachers here to be able to do this. So
Is
We
that what's
actually
best for
don't,
kids?
because the cohorts are going to be like
Yeah.
5 per class.
make sure that at least they're getting what they need.
I think that face-to-face by far is the best way for
Right.
most kids.
But we don't get to make that decision.
We don't get to make
No,
that
I know.
decision.
I'm just
So-
saying.
Right.
Rick is
And-
right. Face-to-face is,
Yep.
and we know virtual is a step away from face-to-face. That's a fact.
Right.
So to have children in the room, and when you're in high school, you're switching rooms constantly. So how could one teacher teach math, science, English? I mean, I don't know how you would do that.
You don't. You'd still cohort them. Okay.
So
So you'd have a
There's
science
not enough
class.
staff. It's feasibly impossible. Either that or you move teachers around and they have 2 students and another teacher has 40. So if you maybe
Yeah.
there's ways to do it with technology. We got to stay on it. We got to make them feel that we're going to give them every bit of support they could possibly need
I
and
don't.
some.
I don't believe anything is impossible, Suzanne. I think if you get these people in the room, they're gonna figure it out.
I think if they all sit down and they all know that, hey, let's try going down this road, and they reach a dead end, and then they try that road, that's impossible. We need 40 more teachers. Eventually, maybe they'll agree, but will they? Or will they just say, no, we don't want to do that?
Well, if
Well,
anything's
that's-
possible,
that's
why
somewhere,
can't they do
somewhere.
the in-class
Doesn't
stuff?
sound like they've had much input anyway, so.
Well,
if
how
they
about
just found out
this?
about it at the end of July.
We're getting into some finite detail here that we're really not going to solve any problems, and we don't have enough input here. And it's not really the correct format. It's let's get to the finite details, but let's get to the finite details with a superintendent's committee and get it together. As Tim suggested, let's sit down and have a powwow and work on finite details with the committee. And that way we're not arguing about the finite details here. We know what
Yep,
the broad
I agree.
details are.
Yep.
We have to be in school and we have to provide, we're serving the community here. And there's a faction of the community, 150 or so kids in the high school that do not want to come back to school
Right.
for one reason or another, whether
Right.
they're compromised, whether they live with grandma and grandpa who
Right.
has a medical
Rick,
condition.
how many virtual kids will be in the average classroom? I mean, does it range from, I've got 0, you've got 2, you've got 1, you've got 5?
I would say that it would be from as few as 1 to as many as a dozen.
So,
Yeah.
so then you'd have 12 sitting there and 12 virtual?
Yeah, could be more, could be 20 and 12.
Okay,
The
depending
state's-
on the class.
And,
Right.
and the state is also required, has waived the 180 days and the hourly requirements this year. So there's ways to work around this to get this done. So.
But but it has to be in the best interest of the kid. And,
All of the kids.
and that means the whole education. That doesn't
Yep.
mean this group of kids suffers a little bit and this.
That's
group
what
of-
I'm saying.
That's right. I agree with you.
But that's impossible, guys. You can't
Right.
have that. You're
No.
not going to have the same learning model when you're not in the classroom. It's impossible to think that you can recreate that. And the thing that you're forgetting is that these parents know that. The parents made these decisions based on the knowledge that we gave them, what they were going to get from the virtual academy and what they were going to get from the distance learning model. These parents aren't looking for, perfection, but I think, we've got
The
2
teachers
weeks
wanna
left.
be
We're not
perfect.
going
They
to
wanna get it
we're
right.
not going to reinvent the wheel in 2 weeks.
And that's the
Well-
point I wanted to make is I'm not interested in moving it back again, the start date.
No, we're not talking about that, but I think we need to set up a committee.
No, it has
and
been
get into the
proposed and I
details
don't
and
agree
get
with
some-
that.
Now-
Get some teachers on this committee and so forth. So-
Now, having a committee meeting is probably a good way to hash out some of these details. There's a lot of information that we simply don't have at this
Right.
board meeting. And the board meeting should be a broader scope anyway. So this should probably go to a superintendent's committee. We're looking at the high school here. Jennifer, please correct me if I'm wrong. Our K through 8, the virtual learning is different because obviously high school is different than pre-high school, but also the quantity of kids in each grade is different. So we can allocate a teacher or a section to each class. Is that what I picked up on, right?
Yes, K-6 was able to have a specific teacher or a team of teachers, depending on how many wanted the distance learning. We do have some issues there, I'm not gonna lie. We've got some split classes and that's giving some anxiety, but that's on another day. But in our 7th and 8th grade at this time, they kind of have been able to do it so that they can teach 3 classes, those face-to-face students, and then have 1 class that'll be distance students, which is what we would like to try to see happen at the high school. Our teachers aren't opposed to distance teaching in any way, shape, or form. What they don't feel that they can be successful at is trying to do them simultaneously. We want to give the very best to our face-to-face students. And that's what they're coming in here for, facing all of the risk and all of the different things. And we want to give them our best.
All right, so we are indeed talking about the high school. In a nutshell, that's where our greatest challenges are, is in the high school. So that at least means we're not talking district-wide. We're talking high school, and that's a smaller, more manageable group again. So we don't have an insurmountable problem. We just have some problems to iron out, some concerns. We've got to do the best we can, and I think if Rick will put together a committee meeting, and we'll bring some people in and see if we can't come to the best option that we can come to in the moment. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. I've been perfectly clear on that. I hopefully to everybody. I don't expect it. I don't think it's fair of anybody, staff or public, to expect that we're going to be hitting home runs on the first day or the first week, or it'll be the first month of adjustments and making things better until everybody finds their step. Um, from personal experience, not even dealing with teaching kids, the changes, I went back to work on May 4th. I got about a month off. And the changes going back to work for me, it took a couple weeks to get back into step with all the new protocols and changes. So I expect that it'd be reasonable for a month to go by before everybody is in step with whatever new norm there is. And I expect it to change after that. That's
Well,
that
and it might be more
evolution
simple
component.
if you have two virtual kids, you could walk to your computer as you were like walking to a desk to, I'm gonna walk over there and help Tim. Now I'm gonna walk over here and help Suzanne on the computer. So you could, but maybe with 12 and 12, it gets a little hairier. I don't know. So maybe there's some compromise in there somewhere.
Well, I think those details, they need to be drilled down upon, but really, we're not going to be able to effectively drill down upon any of them. We don't know all the
Right, 'cause
details.
we haven't done it.
That's not
Right.
really the forum we're at. So putting it through a committee and getting some people together and seeing what we could do, what tweaks we could make, what changes we could make to make it better to start in 2 weeks isn't out of the question. I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Yep, I agree.
Does anyone have, we kind of worked our way right into our next agenda item was actually board member comments and discussion. And part of the reason for having Jennifer at the end here was so that we could naturally flow into it. And we have indeed naturally
did.
flowed into it.
You flowed
So-
right in and flowed right out.
Does anyone have, before Jennifer disappears, does anyone have any other questions for Jennifer in the broad spectrum, broad scope of things?
I think related to all of this, sorry, we need to look at the class schedule. I mean, we're saying there's 60 classes being offered, but are these kids trying to take 60 classes? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that would be
I agree.
something
And
I would
there
like,
is-
or the committee that I would like them to have that information, whoever it is.
And there is indeed, there's classes that are going to be affected in some way. I mean, every class affected in some way, right? But you look at classes like phys ed. I mean, you know that the changes there are going to be dramatic, just like arts and music, just like our extracurricular activities like sports and dances.
Right.
Some of them aren't going to happen at all, and some of them are going to be drastically affected. But before Jennifer gets away, thank you, Jennifer, for coming. We appreciate you coming and speaking tonight. I think I lost her already.
I do have
Nope, she's there. Looks
one
like.
question for board
Thank you
members.
so much.
as we-
Sorry, Rick.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
I just wanted to say thank you very much for having me. Take
You're
care.
welcome.
Thank you.
As we approach this discussion, is the board willing to come out of that discussion with anything less than all day, every day high school instruction? Because I believe that we could create some cohorts, but it would probably involve a hybrid schedule at the high school.
Are we talking about the Wednesday thing again?
Whether it's the Wednesday or the every other day, live and distance, there are some feasible ways to do it with our staff on a schedule that doesn't require all day, 5 day a week, full schedule instruction. That's feasible. But we've said that in Lenawee County, everybody else is offering all day, every day.
Well, no one's else
Instruction.
doing distance learning either.
There are actually 3 other districts that are approaching their virtual learning the same way we are our distance learning. There's 3 districts.
How many,
that are-
so 150 are affected by the distance in high school learning? And then how many, what's the balance that are there all day, every day?
750.
Right.
I would have no problem with that as long as we can get it to
I
be
do.
equitable for every student that
No.
they are getting what they need. I don't have a problem with a hybrid schedule. Because it
I
needs
do.
to be
I
equitable.
like it. They voted for all day, face to face, as close to normal as they can. And that's what they should get. 75% of the people voted for. They didn't vote for every other day.
Well, they didn't vote. That's what they said they wanted.
The
Well,
survey.
by,
Right, they didn't vote.
Yeah.
Now, I think
They
if we
voted
told
in
them,
the survey.
by signing
Well,
their kid up,
it's a
that was the
vote.
vote.
but if we told them that this was being, we're making sure that every kid is getting the best opportunity possible, whether they're distance learning or in person. I don't think any in-person
It's
parent's
their
gonna be
choice
like,
if they want to, if they want
Exactly.
distance
Well,
learning. Now,
maybe
the
it-
difference
maybe
is
it's not-
distance versus being
maybe,
here.
maybe
and
it's not their choice because they have somebody in their home that's got an autoimmune system or something, so.
that's
I don't
what-
think we can pull the rug out from under everybody right now. We've made a choice. We need to stick with it. And we've got 70% of our families that said they want to come back to school. The,
And they're
the,
still- they're
the
still-
30% have two options that they can use. We're not going to reinvent the wheel in the next 2 weeks. This flip-flopping is not going to work. We've made decisions. We need to stick with them.
Yep, I agree. We'll figure out how to make it work.
I disagree.
You
we
get
can-
into so many other
better
things. You're talking about
If we
getting
can give a
into
better equitable
daycare.
education to all of our students, then that's what we're here for,
If we
John.
already
It's
know
not
that,
just for the ones that are coming to school. I'm
if we
sorry.
already know
I
that
totally
face to
disagree
face
with
is the
that.
best
They
way to
made
go,
a
why would we
choice,
jeopardize
Tim.
that for the 700 kids that want face to face every day, all day is the best way to go. That's a fact.
We're not jeopardizing that.
You would be if you went to every other day or 2 days.
Yeah,
a week.
you are, Tim.
Wednesday
You're
off,
changing
They
it.
would still have time on Wednesday to do a face-to-face with their teacher if they needed to.
Now you get into daycare issues and everything
For
else.
high
Those
school
parents
kids,
want their
John, for
kids
high
in
school
school
kids,
5 days. We're not
high
talking about the
school.
high school, Tim.
That's
We're
all
talking about
Is
everybody.
high school.
Yeah, we're talking.
We're only
high
We're
school.
talking
talking
about-
about everybody though.
No, we're talking high school.
No, the schedule that one of the alternatives that was proposed had the Wednesday with the teachers having office hours. That was only for the high school. All the other kids have a 5-day-a-week schedule.
It's still the same issues though with daycare and everything else because only half of those kids drive. The other kids don't. So are we going to bust
Got
those
freshman
kids?
kids going to daycare? No way.
No, but no, Tim, they can't drive. They can't stay home by themselves.
Why can't they stay home? They're
Not
ninth
everybody
grade.
leaves their freshmen at home alone by themselves.
Probably everybody in Tecumseh.
Well, it does
Another
depend on the
alternative
freshman.
Would be every day, but then the live instruction learners have a reduced time schedule. That would be another option for us to explore.
Now-
But we have,
I think
We have
Kevin's
been
idea of
working on a-
hashing this out in a committee is a good one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think it
Okay.
is committee,
we'll
but
explore some things and I'll keep the board advised.
Okay.
let's look at all the options and,
I think having
see if it
kids
can be
home-
improved and see what those improvements could possibly be and, throw a couple extra spitballs at the wall,
Right.
work out the details, and we'll take another look at this. If we have to schedule a board meeting before,
Well,
when is our
if it
next
did-
scheduled?
If we had to increase staff a little bit or do something, maybe it could work. Maybe there's a compromise in there somewhere.
When is our
Rick,
next
have we
board meeting?
shown that,
Correct?
Yeah, but we can always have.
John
a
has something.
special one.
John, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Rick, have you shown the teachers that camera that follows them around the room,
The swivel.
the swivel?
Yeah, last week when we did a Zoom meeting, I think it was Tuesday, high school staff meeting. We
What did they say?
did a demo on that. I didn't collect feedback on that. It was actually Griff's meeting. So I wouldn't want to put words in anybody's mouth. But it was demoed at that time. And then the offer was made to come in and work with it during the week last week. And I don't know who did and who did not.
Were you part of that, Devin?
I think unfortunately Devin has been buried by all these computers that are surrounding him.
He's been busy.
Yeah, it looks like you've been a little busy,
Devin might need some help.
right?
All right, so moving on with our agenda here, we're in board member comments and discussion. Is there any other comments or discussion by board members?
Didn't you have something to address?
Oh, thank you, Becky. I mentioned this to board members. I have an email here. I will be speaking on Mike McNamara's behalf. Mike is not in town currently, so he couldn't make the board meeting. And he is working on being with family and taking care of family stuff. For those reasons, he sent me this email this evening, and I talked to him. He says, quote, I'm resigning my Tecumseh Board of Education seat effective today, Monday, 8/24/2020. I had hoped to give my resignation at a live regular board meeting, but that is not going to be possible. I'm honored to have served on the Tecumseh Board of Education and thankful to the Tecumseh community for electing me. Julie and I are in the process of relocating to Montrose, Michigan sometime in September to be near our sons, grandchildren, and family. We have enjoyed our 25 years in Tecumseh. We wish the best for Tecumseh schools and the community. I'm positive that under the leadership of Superintendent Hilderly, Tecumseh schools will remain among the best in the state. Thank you, Michael J. McNamara.
Aw,
And following that, I would like to personally thank Mike McNamara. He has been a valued board member. He's had plenty of experience sitting in these seats, and I did lean on it more than once, and I appreciate the time he spent with us. Thank you, Mike.
Thank
thank
you.
you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
So we will have a discussion at our next board meeting. We have two options. The first option is that we do the process. We temporarily fill the seat. However, with the election on top of us, filling the seat probably means having somebody seated and for December, maybe some of November. And we can also, per our legal counsel, we can also vote to suspend that portion of our policy that puts the time limit on it and allow the election to fill it naturally. That would be the other option for
Without
us.
state law required that if you didn't do it within a certain amount of days, ISD would fill it for you.
Our policy states that. The attorney's office said that we just have to suspend the policy and we would be allowed to have the election fulfill it. I asked the question of them. So I can double check it,
Yeah,
and I will double check
that
it.
state law.
Insurance usually pretty good about that stuff.
So I will double check to make sure there wasn't a miscommunication when I was talking to him about it.
Yeah, 'cause I'm pretty sure there's a state law that mandates, we have to do this time.
Well, the
I believe so
election
too, but
is-
I will double check it and triple check it, but that was the preliminary information I got from council. Okay. And we will discuss that at our next board meeting, which brings us to adjournment. Could I get a motion to adjourn, please?
Hey, Kevin, I just want to make one more thing here.
Yes, John.
I just want to say, Rick, we appreciate all the hard work that you've done. And as a board, we need to continue to support Rick. We brought him in here to do a job and he's been doing a fantastic job. I think the negative comments sent his way tonight were inappropriate. And we as a board need to continue to support Rick and everything that he's doing. And I'll leave it at that.
All right. Could I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
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 It is unanimous. We are adjourned at 8:42 p.m. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you soon.